What if the love that completes you is the very thing your family fears the most? What happens when the person who taught you to dream becomes the reason your world falls apart? How do you choose between the blood that raised you and the heart that truly sees you? Kenneth Thompson stared out the floor-to-ceiling windows of his 32nd floor office in downtown Chicago, the late afternoon sun painting the lake in shades of gold. At 29, he was already a senior associate at Harlan & Pierce, one of the city's most prestigious firms, with a corner office that most lawyers twice his age would kill for. His tailored charcoal suit fit like a second skin, the silver cufflinks his mother had given him for his law school graduation glinting on his wrists. On paper, his life was perfect. In reality, it felt like a cage. The phone on his desk buzzed for the third time that hour. He didn't need to look to know it was his mother. Margaret Thompson had perfected the art of passive-aggressive persistence. "Kenny, honey, you haven't answered about Thanksgiving. Your father and I expect you to bring someone this year. A nice girl. It's time." The text from last night still sat unread in his mind like a weight. He exhaled slowly and turned back to the files spread across his desk. A high-stakes merger case that could make or break his partnership track. Focus. That had always been his mantra. But today his mind kept drifting to the man who had quietly become the center of his universe 3 years ago. Patrick Reynolds. They had met at a charity gala for Chicago's public schools. Patrick, 27, taught history at a Southside high school and volunteered as a mentor for at-risk kids. He had this easy laugh that cut through the noise of the room, warm brown eyes that saw straight through Kenneth's polished exterior. Their first conversation lasted 2 hours. By the end of the night, Kenneth had felt something he had spent his entire adult life trying to bury. Now Patrick was waiting for him at their usual spot, a quiet Italian place on the north side where no one from the firm ever went. Kenneth grabbed his briefcase and headed out, the elevator ride down feeling like a countdown. Outside, the crisp November air hit him as he walked the 6 blocks. Patrick was already there, leaning against the brick wall in his favorite wool coat, scarf loose around his neck, dark curls tousled by the wind. The sight of him still made Kenneth's chest tighten in the best way. "Hey, counselor," Patrick said softly, pulling him into a quick hug that lingered just a second too long for public safety. "Rough day. You have no idea." Kenneth managed a smile as they stepped inside. Over pasta and red wine, he told Patrick about the latest text from his mother. "She keeps pushing. Bring a nice girl. As if I can just produce one like a rabbit out of a hat." Patrick reached across the table, his fingers brushing Kenneth's for a brief, hidden moment. "You don't have to do this alone. We've talked about this. When you're ready, I'm right here." Kenneth nodded, but inside the familiar storm brewed. His parents had moved from a small Texas town to Chicago when he was 10, bringing their conservative values with them. Church every Sunday, family dinners where politics and traditional life were non-negotiable. His father, a retired accountant, still referred to same-sex marriage as that nonsense on the news. His younger sister Emily had married her high school sweetheart at 22 and already had 2 kids. Kenneth was the outlier, the golden boy who was supposed to continue the line. That night, back in their apartment, Patrick cooked stir-fry while Kenneth reviewed briefs. They ate on the couch, legs tangled, talking about everything and nothing. Patrick shared stories from his classroom, the kid who finally opened up about his own struggles. Kenneth listened, feeling the warmth that only Patrick could give him. Later, when the lights were low, they lay together, Patrick's head on his chest. "I love you," Patrick whispered. "No matter what." Kenneth held him tighter, but sleep didn't come easily. The questions kept circling. How long could he keep pretending? How long before the pressure cracked him open? The next morning brought the call he had dreaded. His mother, voice bright but edged with steel. "Kenny, we're having the whole family over for Thanksgiving. Your Uncle Richard is flying in. And we want you to bring someone special. No more excuses. It's time to settle down." He hung up feeling sick. Patrick was in the kitchen making coffee, humming an old song. Kenneth watched him and knew the truth was no longer something he could outrun. The weeks leading up to Thanksgiving blurred into a haze of court appearances and late nights at the office. Kenneth threw himself into work, hoping the exhaustion would drown out the dread building in his chest. But every evening, Patrick was there, steady as ever, cooking dinner or simply sitting with him on the couch, reading a book while Kenneth reviewed contracts. Their life together felt so normal, so right, yet the secret weighed heavier each day. One Saturday, they drove out to the lakefront for a walk. The November wind whipped off Lake Michigan, but Patrick didn't mind. He took Kenneth's hand once they were far enough from the crowds, fingers interlaced like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Talk to me," Patrick said quietly. "You've been quiet since that call." Kenneth stopped, staring at the gray water. "They're not going to accept this. My dad still quotes Bible verses at dinner like it's 1950. Mom keeps sending me links to dating sites for professional women. I keep picturing their faces if I show up with you." Patrick squeezed his hand. "Then don't show up with me if it destroys you. But don't hide forever either. That's what destroys us." They walked in silence after that, but the conversation lingered. That night, Kenneth lay awake again, replaying every family memory. The Little League games his father coached, the pride in his mother's eyes at his law school graduation. He had always been the perfect son, until he wasn't. Monday brought another layer. At the office, his mentor, senior partner David Harlan, pulled him aside. "Thompson, you're on track for partner next year. Don't let personal stuff derail it. I hear your family's been calling the front desk. Keep it professional." Kenneth nodded, but the warning sat like lead in his stomach. Even at work, the walls were closing in. Patrick sensed the shift and suggested they meet his own friends for dinner, a small group of teachers and artists who had become like family to both of them. Over tapas and laughter, Kenneth watched Patrick shine, telling stories that had everyone leaning in. For a few hours, the pressure lifted. One friend, a gay man named Marcus who had come out to his own conservative parents years ago, pulled Kenneth aside later. "It gets better, man. But only if you stop waiting for permission." The word stuck. By mid-November, Kenneth had made a quiet decision. He wouldn't bring a fake date. He would bring the truth. But fear still gnawed at him. What if Patrick got hurt in the crossfire? What if the family turned on him completely? Thanksgiving week arrived with a snow flurry dusting the city. Kenneth packed a small bag, heart hammering as he kissed Patrick goodbye at the door. "I'll call you every night," Patrick promised, eyes steady. "Whatever happens, I'm proud of you." The drive to his parents' suburban home felt endless. When he pulled into the driveway, the house glowed with lights, the smell of turkey already in the air. His mother opened the door before he even knocked, hugging him tight. "Kenny, where's your guest?" He swallowed. "She's not coming, Mom. I need to talk to everyone after dinner." Her smile faltered, but she ushered him inside. The evening unfolded in familiar chaos. His father grilling him about the firm, Uncle Richard telling bad jokes, Emily chasing her kids around the table. Kenneth smiled through it all, but his mind was miles away with Patrick. After dessert, when the kids were in bed and the adults lingered over coffee, Kenneth stood. "I have something to say." His voice shook only slightly. "I'm gay, and I've been seeing someone for 3 years. His name is Patrick." The room went still. His mother's fork clattered. His father's face turned red. Uncle Richard muttered something under his breath. Emily stared, wide-eyed. "What did you just say?" his father asked, voice low and dangerous. Kenneth repeated it, steadier this time. The ultimatum came fast. "If this is real, don't expect us at your side. We raised you better than this." He left that night, driving back to the city in silence, tears blurring the road. Patrick met him at the door, arms open. For the first time, Kenneth cried without holding back. The days after Thanksgiving felt like free fall. Kenneth's phone blew up with texts from his mother alternating between pleas and accusations. His father stopped answering calls entirely. Emily sent one careful message. "I love you, but Dad's furious. Give him time." Time. As if time could erase the truth he had carried for 29 years. At the firm, word spread in whispers. David Harlan called him in for a closed-door meeting. Personal life is personal, but clients notice these things. Keep it discreet if you want that partnership. Kenneth nodded, but inside he felt the cage tightening. Patrick was his anchor. He took a week off school to be home more, cooking Kenneth's favorite meals, listening without judgment. One evening, they sat on the balcony wrapped in blankets, city lights sparkling below. "You did the hardest part," Patrick said. "The rest is their journey now." But Kenneth couldn't shake the guilt. He replayed his father's face, the disappointment that cut deeper than anger. He started questioning everything. His career, his choices, even whether he deserved the life he had built. Patrick noticed the spiral and suggested therapy. Kenneth agreed, starting sessions with a counselor who specialized in LGBTQ+ clients. The work was painful but necessary, peeling back layers of shame he didn't know he still carried. Christmas loomed. His mother called on Christmas Eve, voice tight. "We're having a small dinner. Just family. Your father says if you come alone, we can talk." Alone. The word stung. Kenneth declined. Instead, he and Patrick spent the holiday with Patrick's chosen family, a warm, chaotic group that welcomed him without question. For the first time in weeks, Kenneth laughed freely. New Year's brought a turning point. Kenneth received an email from his firm's diversity committee inviting him to speak at an upcoming LGBTQ+ ally event. He stared at the screen for a long time. Patrick encouraged him. "This could be your voice." Kenneth accepted, drafting a speech that felt like the most honest thing he had ever written. The event was in mid-January at a downtown hotel ballroom. Kenneth stood at the podium in his best suit, heart pounding, Patrick in the front row. He spoke about his journey, the family pressure, the fear, the love that refused to stay hidden. When he finished, the applause was thunderous. Several colleagues approached afterward, sharing their own stories. For the first time, he felt seen at work. But home was still fractured. His sister Emily called late one night. Dad had a health scare. Nothing serious, but it shook him. Mom's been crying. Maybe it's time to try again. Kenneth promised to think about it. That weekend, he and Patrick drove to a quiet cabin up north to clear their heads. Snow fell softly outside while they sat by the fire. Patrick took Kenneth's hand. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you. But don't sacrifice who you are to keep them comfortable." Kenneth nodded, watching the flames. The decision was forming, slow but certain. He would go back to his family, not alone, but with Patrick. Not to ask for permission, but to show them the man he had become. February brought the kind of Chicago winter that made the city feel like a fortress. Kenneth spent long hours preparing for the confrontation he knew was coming. He rehearsed the words in his head during commutes, practiced staying calm, while Patrick played devil's advocate over dinner. "They're going to push back hard," Patrick warned. "You have to be ready for that." Kenneth was ready. He booked a private room at his parents' favorite steakhouse for a Saturday night. The invitation went out via text. "Dinner. All of us. Patrick will be there. No more secrets." His mother replied with a single word. "Okay." His father didn't reply at all. The night arrived cold and clear. Kenneth picked up Patrick, who wore a simple navy sweater and looked nervous for the first time Kenneth could remember. "You look good," Kenneth said, squeezing his hand as they drove. "We're doing this together." At the restaurant, the family was already seated. His mother stood first, offering a stiff hug. Emily smiled weakly. Uncle Richard looked uncomfortable. His father remained seated, jaw tight. Kenneth introduced Patrick simply. "This is Patrick, my partner." The meal started in painful silence. Small talk about the weather, the firm, Emily's kids. Then Kenneth spoke. He laid everything out, the years of hiding, the love he had found, the life they were building. He didn't apologize. He simply told the truth. His father pushed back immediately. "This isn't how we raised you. This isn't normal." His mother cried quietly. Uncle Richard muttered about agenda. Emily tried to mediate. The tension rose like a storm. Patrick stayed quiet at first, but when his father turned on him directly, Patrick met his eyes. "Mr. Thompson, I love your son. I respect the family that raised him. But I won't let anyone make him feel less than because of who he is." The words hung in the air. Something shifted. His father didn't respond right away. Instead, he stared at his plate. The dinner ended early, no one really eating. As they left, his mother hugged Kenneth tightly. "Give us time," she whispered. In the car, Patrick exhaled. That was brutal. Kenneth nodded, but he felt lighter. The truth was out. The consequences were theirs to carry now. The next weeks were a roller coaster. Some days his mother called just to check in. His father stayed silent. Then one afternoon, Kenneth received a call from Emily. "Dad's in the hospital. Minor heart episode. He's asking for you." Kenneth and Patrick rushed to the hospital. His father lay in the bed, pale but awake. When Kenneth entered, his father looked at Patrick standing in the doorway and said the first words in weeks. "Bring him in." Patrick stepped forward. They talked, haltingly at first. About fear, about love, about the man his son had become. It wasn't a full reconciliation, but it was a crack in the wall. Spring arrived with tentative warmth. Kenneth's father recovered slowly, attending cardiac rehab and grumbling less about the world. The family dinners resumed, awkward but present. Patrick came to two of them. The first was stiff, conversation carefully neutral. The second, his mother asked Patrick about his teaching job. Small steps. At the firm, Kenneth's speech had ripple effects. He was asked to join the diversity committee officially. David Harlan still watched him closely, but the partnership track remained open. Kenneth realized he no longer cared as much about the corner office. He wanted balance. One weekend in April, the family gathered at his parents' house for a barbecue. Patrick helped his father grill, the two men discussing baseball like it was the most normal thing in the world. Kenneth watched from the patio, chest swelling. His mother pulled him aside. "He's a good man. I see that now." But not everyone was ready. Uncle Richard still avoided eye contact. Kenneth's father still slipped sometimes, old phrases creeping in. The work wasn't done. Then came the crisis that forced everything into focus. Patrick's school faced budget cuts that threatened his job and the after-school program he ran for LGBTQ+ youth. The community rallied, but they needed legal help. Kenneth stepped in pro bono, filing motions, negotiating with the district. The case went to court. His family watched from the gallery on the final day. Kenneth argued passionately, not just for Patrick, but for every kid who needed safety. When the judge ruled in their favor, the courtroom erupted. His father stood slowly, walked over, and shook Patrick's hand. "You fight for what's right," he said gruffly. "Like my son." That night, back home, Kenneth and Patrick celebrated quietly. The victory wasn't just legal. It was the moment his family saw the full picture. Two men building something real, fighting for others, loving without apology. Summer brought the kind of peace Kenneth had stopped believing was possible. He and Patrick took a week off and drove to a cabin in Michigan, spending days on the lake and nights talking about the future. No more hiding. No more ultimatums. Back in Chicago, the family dynamic had shifted permanently. His mother sent Patrick recipe cards. His father invited them both to watch a Cubs game. Emily's kids called Patrick Uncle Pat. Uncle Richard still struggled, but he showed up. Kenneth made his own changes. He turned down the partnership track for a role that let him do more pro bono work for LGBTQ+ causes. The firm accepted it. Patrick expanded his mentoring program with new funding. Their life together felt solid, rooted. One evening in late August, they hosted a small dinner at their apartment. Both families came. Laughter filled the room. His father raised a glass. "To family," he said, looking at Patrick. "All of it." Kenneth met Patrick's eyes across the table. The road had been long and painful, full of fear and misunderstanding. But every step, every choice, had led here. In the quiet after everyone left, Kenneth pulled Patrick close on the balcony. "Thank you for waiting." Patrick smiled. "Thank you for choosing us." The city lights stretched below them, endless and bright. In reflecting on this story, I see how love isn't always easy, but it's always worth the fight. Families aren't perfect, and change doesn't happen overnight. Yet honesty has this quiet power to rewrite old scripts. If there's one casual takeaway, it's this: don't wait for permission to be who you are. Speak your truth when you're ready. Surround yourself with people who see you, and watch how hearts that seemed closed can slowly open. The real win isn't winning arguments. It's building a life where no one has to hide anymore.